Part of the great waves of change for humanity is that it must face the reality that it is not alone in the universe, or even within its own world. For expeditionary forces from the greater community, from the physical universe, are in the world today and have been here for some time, interfering in human affairs, manipulating human perception, promoting human conflict, acting surreptitiously behind the scenes, taking people against their will and subjecting them to often terrible experiments, turning their minds so that they will become supportive and allegiant to this intervention. While you have been living your life under normal circumstances, great things have been going on behind the scenes, things that the public has no idea of. And though many people have seen craft flying in their skies and countless sightings have been reported, the mystery of this presence in your world has remained undercover, behind the scenes, out of public view. Great effort has been taken by many of your governments to discourage any inquiry into this, creating a veil of secrecy and ridicule that has been quite effective in discouraging public conversation and public awareness of this great encounter, this great challenge to human freedom. No government will admit to its people that it is facing an adversary for which it has no adequate response. So the mystery of this has now been covered up by lies and deception. People have been encouraged to believe fantastic things about the alien presence in the world, thinking that it is a fantasy or that it represents some kind of wonderful story from the past. It is now so veiled in half-truths and deception, in ridicule and in fantasy, that even those people who have recognized a foreign presence in the world cannot think clearly about it. It has been so confused, so muddled, so turned and so changed. Certain people have even been encouraged by the government to tell fantastic and wild stories, to create discredit upon anyone who might seek to present anything true or real, or to attempt to generate an honest conversation, a public conversation, a public debate, a public awareness. Into the world at this time, when the great waves are beginning to emerge, have come other forces, competitors from the universe. They come not with weapons. They come not with an armada of vessels. They come with the power of persuasion and deception. Their technology is advanced, but what they rely upon is their ability to influence the minds of those who live here. In this greater community of intelligent life in the universe, war as it is known within this world is actually far more rare than you might realize. Other ways have been found to overcome opponents: trickery, deception, manipulation, projection and power in the mental environment, an environment that humanity knows almost nothing about. While influence is attempted in every household, in every nation, influence in the greater community has taken on far greater and more subtle demonstrations, and is far more powerful as well. Those races who are seeking to gain access to the world want to preserve its resources. They see humanity as one of the resources. They are not here to destroy you, but to use you, to use your intelligence and your strength, to use you to serve them. And they will take whatever time is required, using extremely subtle means to achieve this end. The world is so valuable. It is so rich biologically, and it has such a great and important strategic position. You do not realize what a prize this world is and how valued it is to those few races that are aware of it and who seek it for themselves. They will compete for it, but they will use similar means and tactics. They will attempt to weaken the strongest nations by engaging them in intractable conflicts, by encouraging the overuse of the resources of the world, resources that they themselves do not need. They will spread discontent. They will promote the idea that human leadership cannot save the world, that humanity is essentially destructive, and that only a foreign power, only the power of the intervention can save humanity from itself, from destroying itself, from destroying its world, and from succumbing to the great waves of change. You now have competitors from beyond. They are not warriors. They do not conquer through force. Their powers are subtle but extremely effective in a world where people are divided and in conflict with one another, in a world where people are ignorant of the realities and requirements of life in the universe around them, in a world where people are superstitious, in a world where people have not yet learned to trust the deeper knowledge that God has placed within them. All of these things make you vulnerable to persuasion and manipulation. And while the intervention will seek to remain hidden and out of view for the majority of the people in the world, those who are aware of its presence will be influenced. Many will be taken and their minds will be turned towards the intervention. Many will be used for reproductive experiments. Many will be taken and never return to this world. It is so fantastic, it is so incredible that people can hardly believe that something like this could happen. Yet people have forgotten that they are a part of nature, that competition and intervention are parts of nature, that species try to compete with each other for environment and for resources. Humanity now has reached a position of power and has developed a worldwide infrastructure that foreign races can use. Humanity is facing the great waves of change. So it is uniquely vulnerable to the kind of influence and persuasion that will be presented here. People will say, "This is incredible. I do not believe this." But you must ask yourself, who has been flying in your skies for the past many decades? Who has been churning panic among your governments for the past many decades? And why will nations act so foolishly, outstripping their resources and engaging in conflicts with others, conflicts that cannot be won? You may say it is human greed and foolishness, but that is not sufficient. For humanity is at a great turning point, a turning point that will lead either to its permanent decline or to its future ascension as a united and powerful race. It is at this great threshold that certain other races will exert their influence because the resources of the world are valuable and because humanity is viewed as a resource by these forces. Great care will be taken to encourage a shift in authority, a reliance upon foreign power, a reliance upon foreign technology. All the while, the intervention will present itself as a benign and uplifting force to those few people who have become aware of it and especially to those who have come under its influence. This complicates your situation. It indeed creates a great barrier of recognition for people. So much confusion, deception and ridicule have been planted now in the human awareness that people, especially in the more wealthy nations, are afraid to even think about these things, thinking that if they do so, they will be foolish. They will appear foolish to others. That is why a new message has to be given now, for humanity is at the critical turning point which will determine whether it will be a failing civilization, a failing race in a world that will eventually come under foreign power and domination, or whether it will exercise its greater intelligence, its greater power, to become a united and free race within a greater community of intelligent life in the universe. You must see that you are the native peoples of this world and learn the lessons of intervention. Learn the lessons that have taught you what has happened to native peoples when they encountered forces from beyond their awareness, forces displaying different and perhaps greater technology, forces that they did not understand, forces that they mistook for some kind of spiritual entity or spiritual emissary. History tells you how great civilizations have capitulated to small groups of clever and deceptive invaders. Especially later in the history of the world, this has been demonstrated repeatedly. Entire nations and cultures, even today, are falling under persuasion of foreign powers by dependence on foreign technology and by the persuasion of the intervention itself. Now all of humanity is facing this. Now all of humanity represents the native peoples of this world facing intervention by small expeditionary forces who are here to begin to turn humanity against itself, to gain influence, to gain ascendancy, to unite with people psychologically and emotionally and, in some cases, even biologically. In this way, humanity could be overtaken without any signs of overt violence. This is how a more intelligent and united race overtakes a much larger, but weaker and divided race. You are now facing skills you have not yet cultivated. You are now facing a deception that is doubly difficult to discern because of the intervention's intentions to deceive and because of the difficulty and confusion that human beings themselves have sown around this most fundamental and consequential event. The Creator of all life will not allow humanity to simply be overtaken through deception, through guile, through manipulation without a great warning. The new message has given this warning. It has even called upon your potential allies in the universe to send spies to view this intervention and to give their report. These spies have never visited the Earth, but they have witnessed the intervention and have sent their report in a series of BRIFI and GS from the allies of humanity. You do not know who these races are, but their testimony is essential for your development and preparation for the greater community. When you put all these pieces together, the picture becomes very clear. The human family is now struggling, facing a world in decline, facing a world of diminishing resources, facing the ever greater risk of competition, conflict and war amongst its divided nations and peoples. Into this, competitors come to use these situations to their advantage and to prey upon human weakness, superstition and conflict. If you could look at the history of humanity, particularly the recent history of humanity, where other alternatives to force have been used to gain control of other nations and peoples, you will see that the intervention today is following a very familiar pattern. It is just that humanity is not used to being in this position. It believes it is ascendant. It believes it is powerful. It does not recognize that another race could come and take advantage of its weakness, its conflicts and its superstitions. All of these circumstances work against you now, and that is why a new message has been sent into the world to warn and prepare humanity for the great waves of change and for the reality of encountering a greater community of intelligent life. People do not know anything about life in the universe, and that is why this education is so fundamental and essential. Even your great scientists would think that anyone who would come to visit would be fascinated with humanity, would want to share science with humanity, would want to share technology with humanity, and would want to help humanity. And yet, in reality, the first races that you will encounter directly will be resource explorers and economic collectives, those who are here to take advantage of an immense opportunity and who will take advantage of your place in history, your circumstances, your tendencies and your ignorance. This warning about the intervention must be part of your education now, or you will underestimate the power of the times in which you live. You will underestimate the power and the dangers of the great waves of change and how they can be used against you by others whom you do not recognize. These visitors to the world are not multidimensional beings. They are not from the spirit world. They are not angels or demons. They are physical beings like you, driven by the same needs that drive humanity: the need for resources, the need for control, the need for wealth and the need for stability. There is no one in the world who can give you a greater community education, who can provide to you wisdom from the greater community. This really must come from God. Part of this preparation must come from those few races who are aware of you, who could be your future allies, for their testimony is crucial to your understanding. In the greater nature of things, advanced and successful races must pass on their wisdom to emerging worlds such as your own, and they must do this without actually interfering in these worlds. This represents a greater tradition in the universe than you are yet aware of. But you are now the beneficiaries of this, and such a gift of wisdom must be given without manipulation and without intervention. That is why those races who are intervening in the world today represent those who would seek to take advantage of a weak and divided humanity. You must have great strength to face this. You must be able to gather the courage within yourself to face this. If you make a mistake here, if you do not recognize your situation and your opposition, then you will make a great and perhaps fatal error.